Most people fight for attention. They try to stay visible. They try to stay available. They believe the more they show up, the more they will matter. But strategic people don't fight for attention. They fight for mental territory. Because attention is temporary, mental space is power. When someone owns your time, that's influence. But when someone owns your thoughts, when you replay their words, when you wonder what they meant, when their presence stays with you even after they leave, that's power. You don't need to chase attention. You need to occupy the mind, and that is a completely different game. Most people think obsession is created by intensity. They believe if they give more energy, more emotion, more effort, people will become attached. But obsession doesn't come from intensity. It comes from psychological tension. The human mind is not controlled by what is obvious. It is controlled by what feels unfinished. When everything is explained, the brain relaxes. When everything is predictable, interest fades. But when something feels incomplete, when there is curiosity, when there is uncertainty, when there is something left unsaid, the mind keeps returning again and again. This is why the most powerful people are not the loudest. They are the most mentally present. Machiavellian thinking is not about romance. It is not about emotional games. It is about leverage. It is about understanding how attention works, how memory works, and how psychological tension keeps someone mentally connected to you. As Niccolò Machiavelli understood centuries ago, power is not about forcing people to feel something. Power is about creating conditions where their own mind keeps returning to you. Because the strongest form of influence is not control over someone's actions. It is influence over their thoughts. When your presence creates unresolved curiosity, when your behavior cannot be fully predicted, when your absence creates mental friction, you become psychologically significant. And people don't chase what is available. They chase what occupies their mind. Today we are breaking down 7 modern dark psychology principles that turn simple presence into mental permanence. These principles will not teach you how to chase attention. They will teach you how to create psychological gravity, how to become memorable, how to become mentally valuable, how to become someone the mind keeps returning to, without effort, without pressure, without need. Real power is being mentally unavoidable. Before we begin, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I control mental space. Number 1. Control mental space, not physical presence. Most people believe influence comes from being around someone as much as possible. They stay available. They respond instantly. They extend conversations. They try to keep the interaction alive for as long as they can. But constant presence does not create value. It creates familiarity, and familiarity relaxes the mind. When someone sees you too often, hears from you too frequently, or feels your energy all the time, your presence becomes normal, predictable, easy to process, and the human brain does not hold on to what feels ordinary. Strategic influence works differently. The goal is not to be around them longer. The goal is to stay in their mind after you leave. Because power is not measured by how long you were present. Power is measured by how long your impact lasts. This is where most people fail. They focus on duration instead of depth. They talk too much. They explain too much. They fill every silence. And in doing so, they remove the very thing that creates mental engagement: space. The mind needs space to replay. When an interaction is short but meaningful, something interesting happens. The brain begins to reconstruct the moment. It reviews your words. It analyzes your tone. It tries to understand the intention behind what you said. And that process creates repetition. Repetition creates familiarity. But when repetition happens inside their mind, it turns into fixation. Instead of giving them more of your time, give them something to think about. Say less, but make it precise. Speak with clarity, not volume. End conversations while the energy is still rising, not when it starts fading. Because the strongest psychological hook is an unfinished emotional state. When the interaction ends too cleanly, the brain moves on. But when it ends with curiosity, interest, or a slight sense of incompletion, the mind continues the interaction internally. This is how mental space is created. Another key principle is emotional imprint. People do not remember long conversations. They remember emotional shifts. A moment of unexpected insight, a sharp observation, a calm reaction when emotion was expected. When your presence creates a noticeable internal reaction, the brain tags that interaction as significant. And significance leads to recall. But recall becomes obsession only when combined with absence. If you remain constantly available, the mind doesn't need to revisit you. But when you create impact and then step away, the brain has no new input. So it reuses the old one. That's when your mental presence grows. Silence, after impact, is not distance. It is psychological amplification. Another mistake people make is trying to maintain momentum through constant contact. They believe continuity builds connection. In reality, constant contact removes mystery, and mystery is the fuel of mental engagement. When someone doesn't know exactly when they will hear from you again, when your appearances feel intentional rather than automatic, your presence gains weight. You move from routine to event, from expected to noticed. And once your presence is noticed, your absence becomes felt. That is the shift. From physical interaction to psychological occupation, the most influential individuals are not those who are always around. They are the ones whose brief presence leaves a lasting cognitive trace. Short interaction, deep impact, then space. Because when the conversation ends and their mind keeps replaying it, you are no longer interacting with them. You are living inside their thoughts. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My impact lingers. Number 2, be hard to categorize. The human mind is built for efficiency. It constantly scans people and situations, looking for patterns. The moment it believes it understands someone, it creates a mental label. Friendly, serious, emotional, logical, confident, quiet, predictable. And once that label is created, something important happens. Attention drops, because the brain believes there is nothing new to discover. This is why most people become forgettable. Their reactions are consistent. Their tone never changes. Their behavior follows a clear pattern. After a short time, others feel they know exactly who they are and what to expect. And when someone becomes predictable, the mind stops working. But obsession doesn't grow from certainty. It grows from complexity. When someone cannot fully define you, their brain keeps trying to figure you out. It looks for hidden meaning. It analyzes your behavior. It pays closer attention to your words, your mood shifts, your reactions. Because the mind is uncomfortable with incomplete understanding, it wants closure. And if you never give full closure, the attention continues. Most people make themselves easy to read. Their emotions are obvious. Their opinions are immediate. Their reactions are automatic. They reveal everything about themselves too quickly in an attempt to build connection. But full transparency removes intrigue. When someone feels they have seen all your layers, curiosity disappears. Strategic presence works differently. Instead of revealing your full emotional range at once, you allow different sides of your personality to appear at different moments. Calm in one situation, sharp in another, light humor when seriousness is expected, silence when others are reacting emotionally. This contrast creates cognitive tension. The mind begins asking quiet questions. Are they emotional or controlled? Are they warm or distant? Are they relaxed or intense? And the more difficult it becomes to place you into a single category, the more mental energy you receive. But this is not about acting or pretending. It is about emotional control and selective expression. Most people react automatically based on the situation. Strategic individuals respond intentionally. They choose when to show intensity, when to show restraint, when to engage, when to step back. This controlled variation prevents pattern formation, and without a stable pattern, the brain stays alert. Another important factor is emotional independence. When your reactions are not driven by approval, pressure, or social expectation, your behavior becomes less predictable. You are not easily influenced by the emotional tone around you. While others rise and fall with the environment, you remain centered. That stability, combined with selective variation, creates a powerful psychological effect. You feel grounded, but not simple. Clear, but not fully revealed. And that balance keeps attention locked. People often think likability comes from being easy to understand, but memorability comes from depth. When someone feels there is more beneath the surface than what is visible, their mind keeps searching for the missing pieces. Every interaction becomes a small investigation. Every conversation becomes a new data point. And over time, that quiet analysis turns into mental investment. They are not just interacting with you, they are trying to understand you. And when someone is trying to understand you, you already occupy their thoughts. Because the rarest psychological position is not being liked. It is being interesting without trying. Number 3, build controlled uncertainty. The human brain is constantly trying to close loops. It wants clarity, it wants emotional certainty, it wants to know where things stand, what something means, and what will happen next. When everything feels defined, the mind relaxes. And when the mind relaxes, attention fades. This is why certainty feels comfortable but rarely creates psychological intensity. When someone knows exactly how you feel about them, exactly how you will respond, and exactly where they stand in your world, there is no reason for their mind to stay engaged. The emotional equation is complete. There is nothing left to solve. But when there is controlled uncertainty, something very different happens. The mind stays active. It replays conversations, looking for hidden signals. It analyzes tone, timing, and behavior. It tries to predict your emotional position. It searches for confirmation that never comes fully. And that search creates mental attachment. This does not mean confusion or mixed signals driven by emotional instability. That creates distrust and distance. Controlled uncertainty is different. It comes from emotional steadiness combined with selective clarity. Your energy is consistent, your behavior is calm, but your emotional availability is not fully defined. Sometimes you are warm, other times you are reserved. Sometimes you engage deeply, other times you step back without explanation. Your attention feels intentional, not automatic. This creates an open loop. The person cannot fully measure your emotional investment. They sense interest, but not certainty. They feel connection, but not possession. And that space between connection and certainty is where obsession grows. Another powerful element of controlled uncertainty is timing. Most people respond immediately to everything. Messages, invitations, Emotional signals. Their availability becomes predictable. Their attention feels guaranteed. But when your responses follow your own rhythm instead of emotional pressure, your presence feels chosen rather than given. The mind notices that difference. It begins to wonder what else occupies your attention. It begins to value the moments when you do engage. Because availability that is not constant feels valuable. Consistency in character combined with variability in access creates psychological tension. That tension keeps attention alive. Language also plays a role. People often over-explain their feelings, their intentions, and their thoughts because they want to avoid misunderstanding. But too much explanation removes mystery. When every emotion is defined and every intention is stated, there is no room for interpretation. And interpretation is what keeps the mind working. Strategic communication is clear, but not exhaustive. You express enough to create connection, but not so much that there is nothing left to question. The goal is not to create doubt about your integrity. The goal is to leave space around your emotional depth. When someone feels there is more beneath the surface than what you reveal, their attention naturally moves toward you. Because uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity creates mental repetition. One more factor makes controlled uncertainty powerful: emotional independence. When your mood, attention, and engagement are not driven by someone else's reactions, your emotional position feels self-contained. You are not adjusting yourself to maintain their comfort. You are operating from your own internal center. That independence signals strength. And strength combined with emotional space creates a powerful psychological pull. They cannot fully predict you, they cannot fully measure you, and the mind keeps trying, because the most persistent form of attention comes from unanswered emotional questions. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I create mystery. Number 4. Associate yourself with elevation. The human mind is naturally drawn to growth. People are constantly searching for environments, relationships, and influences that make them feel stronger, sharper, and more capable. They may not say it directly, but at a psychological level, everyone is asking the same quiet question. Does my life feel better when this person is around? If the answer is yes, attachment begins. If your presence makes someone feel more focused, more confident, more disciplined, or more ambitious, you become more than just another connection. You become psychologically valuable, and value creates mental priority. Most people try to create attachment through comfort alone. They focus on being supportive, agreeable, and easy to be around. While comfort builds familiarity, it doesn't always create deep psychological impact. Comfort relaxes the mind. Elevation activates it. When someone leaves an interaction with you feeling more motivated, more aware, or more mentally energized, their brain begins to associate you with progress. And the mind holds tightly to anything connected with personal improvement. This is because growth triggers reward chemistry. When people feel they are becoming better versions of themselves, they naturally return to the source of that feeling. Your role is not to entertain them. Your role is to elevate their state. This can happen through the way you think, the way you speak, and the standards you carry. When your conversations bring clarity instead of noise, when your perspective challenges them to think deeper instead of staying comfortable, your presence begins to stand out. You are no longer just interaction. You become influence. Another important factor is emotional atmosphere. If your energy is calm, grounded, and forward-focused, people begin to regulate themselves around you. Your presence becomes stabilizing. In a world filled with distraction and emotional volatility, Stability itself feels powerful. When someone feels more centered after being around you, your psychological weight increases. But elevation is not created by advice or correction alone. Most people resist being told what to do. True elevation comes through example, when your lifestyle reflects discipline, purpose, and direction. People feel the contrast without you saying a word. Your habits communicate standards. Your focus communicates priorities. And that silent signal creates respect. Respect is stronger than attraction, because respect builds long-term mental positioning. Another powerful element is selective reinforcement. When you acknowledge strength, effort, or progress in someone instead of just offering casual praise, your approval feels meaningful. You're not giving validation freely, you're recognizing growth. And when your recognition feels earned rather than automatic, your words carry weight. People begin to value your opinion, and once someone values your opinion, they begin to think about how they appear in your eyes, even when you are not present. That is psychological elevation, turning into mental presence. There is also a contrast effect at work. If your environment, conversations, and mindset consistently move toward improvement, other environments may start to feel less stimulating by comparison. Your presence becomes associated with momentum, and momentum is addictive. People naturally return to places and individuals who make them feel like they are moving forward instead of standing still. This is how elevation creates attachment without pressure. You are not asking for attention. Your presence earns it, because the mind prioritizes what improves its future. Number 5. Master emotional contrast. The human brain is designed to notice change. It does not hold on to what stays the same for too long. When emotions, tone, and behavior remain constant, the mind adapts quickly. What once felt engaging becomes normal. What once felt special becomes expected. And what becomes expected slowly loses emotional impact. This is why constant warmth, constant seriousness, or constant intensity eventually fades in effect. Even positive energy, when delivered without variation, becomes background noise. But contrast resets attention. Contrast creates emotional movement, and emotional movement is what the brain remembers. Most people operate in a single emotional mode. They are always serious, always playful, always agreeable, or always intense. Their reactions follow the same pattern regardless of the situation. Because the pattern is stable, others stop paying close attention. They believe they already know what response is coming. But when your emotional range is controlled and dynamic, something different happens. The mind stays alert. If you are calm and focused most of the time, a moment of sharp humor feels powerful. If you are disciplined and direct, a rare moment of warmth feels meaningful. If you normally speak with restraint, a brief moment of intensity carries weight. The brain encodes these shifts because they break expectation. And